Welcome back. I'm Vince Sims. These days, you don't think twice when you see an African-American police officer patrolling the streets of Atlanta because the force is more than 50% minority. But you would have done a double take just 70 years ago. That's when Atlanta's first black police officers began working. And did they ever face some challenges?
This area, as you can see, is coming back to that splendor.
Atlanta Assistant Police Chief Rodney Bryant reminds us of how the Edgewood area once was.
It was clearly thriving at that time.
It was also one of the few places the black officers on the Atlanta police force could patrol.
This is the only area that they would have been able to be in at that time.
That time was 1948, 70 years ago. These 8 men were Atlanta's first African-American police officers, ranging in age from 21 to 32. All but one was a World War II veteran.
We owe so much to these 8 pioneers who decided to take on the responsibility of being the first. They were not well received by white police officers and even some blacks in the community.
Assistant Chief Bryant, who is number 2 in command of the Atlanta Police Department, shows us the Butler Street YMCA. This is where those first black officers worked from. They weren't allowed in police headquarters.
These officers weren't allowed to socialize with the white officers. They had to go to Butler Street YMCA and change their uniforms there.
They also had limited powers on the street.
They weren't able to arrest white citizens. They were only able to patrol certain areas of town.
Some of the limits placed on those 8 actually led to what is known today as community policing.
They weren't allowed to drive cars, so they walked footbeats. And that allowed them to have a closer relationship with the community that they served. They had to overcome some significant hurdles to get us into the place that we are today.
Today, the department is very diverse, with more than 50% minority.
I grew up in the city of Atlanta, and so I was here during some times where I saw police officers have an effect on our community, both in negative and positive ways.
Bryant joined the force in 1988 at a young age and is now the assistant chief of the department.
Their efforts, we stand on the shoulders of these giants today.
Bryant admits, although the force is much more diverse 70 years later, there are still challenges today.
Nothing that's not addressed professionally. It clearly is nowhere. We've come a very, very long way from 1948.
Having come a long way, he takes pride in his position and responsibilities placed on him. He's the lead person on the department's role in Super Bowl 53 coming to Atlanta next year.
It's an honor to have that level of responsibility, to be entrusted with being able to put on an event of that stature.
Bryant credits the bravery of then-Mayor William Hartsfield, Police Chief Herbert Jenkins, and those 8 black officers.
The initial stage may be very difficult, but if not for them, we don't know when blacks would have joined the police department.
Because they did, Bryant wants to give his all to honor their actions.
I want to continue to serve the community that I love in any aspect that I can.
So interesting to learn that history. Another key factor in the department accepting the black officers, it was in 1950 when the 12th black officer that was hired was killed in the line of duty. It's reported that's when some white officers acknowledged the sacrifice of those black officers. As we continue to look at people who have made a difference in African-American life in Atlanta, we want to tell you about Madam C.J. Walker. It started with a black woman who knew her worth, and she ended up being worth millions. CBS 46's Giovanna Deerpig met Atlanta's own version of Madam C.J. Walker.
Audacious, courageous, and unapologetic, Sarah Breedlove is the strong black woman behind the beauty brand Madam C.J. Walker and the inspirational hashtag #ICAN. Born to former slaves, Madam C.J. Walker, as she's now known, did not accept her lot in life. And she became one of the first self-made female millionaires.
She was the Muhammad Ali of the beauty industry in the early 1900s, and that she had the same sort of swag that Muhammad Ali had.
Muhammad Ali had his hands. Madam C.J. Walker had her marketing skills and mojo, according to her great-great-granddaughter, Alelia Bundles.
She used advertisements, and I think if she were alive today, she would be using Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and whatever avenues and vehicles were available to her.
Madam C.J. Walker was all about no excuses to build her hair products business.
I got my start by giving myself a start.
And here in Atlanta, we have our own modern Madam C.J. Walker.
I'm sure that's been...
We interviewed her at the Madam C.J. Walker Museum. She's Candace Mitchell, a Forbes 30 Under 30 winner who's also won an award named after Madam C.J. Walker, the Atlanta Power 25 Award.
I was having a really tough day because it's just hard growing a business, being an entrepreneur, and when I got the email that I received the award, I actually cried a little bit because it was like an acknowledgement that I am on the right path, like no matter how hard it gets.
Mitchell's business is providing a custom hair analysis service. You provide the hair sample and they test it in the lab.
A scientific assessment and create a hair profile in which you get results and recommendations on the best products to use for your hair.
Mitchell's path, like Madam C.J. Walker's, was not the traditional one.
I was really in love with computers. We got our first computer, and I remember just admiring the software and the operating system. I know it sounds very geeky. It's just like...
So she took her computer science brain and Georgia Tech degree, created the software, and combined it with her love of beauty to come up with her personalized hair analysis service, Myavana. And when you see just how much Madam C.J. Walker did.
Madam C.J. Walker really represents the best of an American rags to riches story.
Hashtag #ICanSheDid. Explain that to us.
Overcoming obstacles, developing a great product, being inspirational to others, being a mentor to others, finding ways that you can help the next generation.
And Candace is the next generation to show us that Madam C.J. Walker's spunk and spirit of living out #ICanSheDid lives on in Atlanta. Giovanna Derpick, CBS 46 News.
Very great story right there. All right, still to come. She's 100 years young and sharp as a tack. You'll meet Sister Spear when Public Affairs on Peach returns.